Today we're gonna have a look at this, one of my all-time dream cars, the 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback. We're gonna talk about some of the exterior details, what separates it from the 65 and the 68 models, and also look at the interior of this car. And I wanna say thank you to Sienna Motors right here in Lighthouse Point for letting me review their beautiful 67 Fastback today. If you're interested in seeing all of their inventory, just go to siennamotors.com or click the link down below in the description to check out their amazing inventory of very, very special cars. You can see some of them back there. Now, let's talk about the 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback. So, I was looking at this car going down the street the other day, and I was admiring all the details and the craftsmanship of this car. I was interrupted by a modern Ford Mustang going the opposite way and kind of blocking the view of the 1967 Mustang. That got me thinking, do you think we're still gonna have the same admiration for the modern Mustang as we do for the 1967 Fastback? In my opinion, I don't think so. And in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly why. So this car, when they designed the Ford Mustang to begin with, they had a little bit of a brief from the Ford executive, obviously, on how they wanted to design this car and what they wanted to do with it. They had some of the key guidelines for the design team was it has to seat 4 people, it has to be under $2,500, it has to weigh less than 2,500 pounds, which is about 1,100 kilograms or something like that. It has to have four seats and 2 bucket seats in the front, and also a floor mounted shifter right there. So those were kind of the guidelines for the design team when they started to design the Ford Mustang. And in this video I want to talk about some of the differences between the 1965 and the 66, and then this, which is the first redesign of the Ford Mustang, and what actually changed when you look at this compared to a 65. So let's start in the back, which is my favorite view of this car, and I think it's one of the best looking views of any car in automotive history, really, because when I look at this, this could be done today. This could have been designed today with a few modifications to the trim levels and so on, but other than that, the overall proportions and the graphic placement of this car and this design, it looks like it could have been designed today. And if you ask me, I would take this design over the current S550 Ford Mustang every single day. So let's have a look at what changed here from the 65 up to the 67. So the main change is a very interesting one that has to do with the proportions of the car. So to better show you this, I decided to sketch up both variants, both the 1965 and the 1967 right here, and show you the main differences. The big difference, which I'm going to show you on the real car in just a second here, is that the C-pillar, or the actual fastback design, the coupe roofline, stretches far back on the 1967 model, where it kind of ends a little early on the 1965. So looking at it from a side view, the 65 has more of a sedan trunk, and the 67 has more of a the roofline stretches all the way back and creates this little ducktail, which I'm going to show you in detail in just a second. They sold 22,000 Mustangs on the first day of launch in 1964, and the dealers couldn't even handle the demand, so the wait lists just kept getting longer and longer. A great success for Ford. So if we look at this car from a side view right here, you can see that the roofline, it starts with the A-pillar going very almost straight, and then it dips down and it goes all the way back. Actually, you can't see it because the fender is blocking it right here, but it goes all the way back and creates this little ducktail right here, which we don't have on the 65. And this is one of these details that is just absolutely beautiful, this design right here, and it makes even more sense that they put in the Mustang letters here. It just finish everything off in the rear end, but you can see that the line stretches all the way down to the very end right here. If you look, for example, at a Ford 65 Fastback Mustang or a 66, the big change there is that the coupe, or the roofline, ends a lot sooner. It ends somewhere around this point and then continues straight. So it has more like a boot Another change that they did that I love about this 67 is that they scooped out the rear end here. So you can see that the deck lid has this concave curvature to it, and inside here you have this traditional 3 taillights that everybody knows as Mustangs when you see these at night. So very beautifully done, and it feels like there is a lot more passion in car design in the 60s and the 70s and earlier models than we have today. Today, I understand that it's about mass production, it's about money, and it's about profits, but it feels like when they designed this car, the designers has true passion for what they wanted to create and a true vision, and they went for that. And that's why I think this design is a lot more timeless in its approach to the lines and the overall proportions than the modern S550. Now, I'm a huge fan of these early designs of the Mustangs because it has this confused, almost sad look with this inverted key lines of the front fascia, and Mustangs kept this look up until the 2009 model year. It's like a mental patient with all this power and anger within him, but he doesn't know how to express it. It's like he's unaware of how powerful he is, and you wouldn't know it by just looking at his face. You just sense that something is off when staring into those lifeless eyes overshadowed by the deep eye sockets. One mistake, you can set him off into a rampage. It's like a constant confused look that I love about the Mustang and that sets it apart from other muscle cars. These two things are different. These, I don't want to call them intakes because they're clearly fake intakes, but I really like that they put them here because it looks cool, and it created one of these design features that went on and on with Mustangs, even up until the 2010 model year. I used to have a 2012 GT, and that had this hockey stick design. So you had this line going here, and then he just swung up like this. Unfortunately, for the new S550s, they got rid of that altogether, which I think is a bit of a shame, because it was one of these features that I think would have stuck with the Mustangs throughout the years. On top of that, if you want to distinguish the 67 from the 65 and the 66, just look at these louvers here. We have 12 of them on the 67, and we have 5, I think. I'm pretty sure it's 5 on the 65 and the 66. Different front end here as well, introduced again with these lines right here. And we also have the, of course, emblem right there in the middle. If you want a special car on your driveway, this 67 every day before the S550 for sure. This is definitely something that will also go up in value over time compared to an S550. And the color is correct as well, in my opinion. It's almost like a bullet green. I'm not sure it's the correct bullet green color for this car, but green on a Mustang, they kind of go hand in hand. Now, looking at the interior, we have a period correct wooden steering wheel, and we have an automatic transmission in this specific GT, and we also have oil pressure here and an alternator meter right here instead of the tachometer, which I think was an option for the 1967. And we also have the regular speedometer right there going up to 120, which was increased to 140 for the 1968 model year. And you also have the gas gauge right there. One little detail that I want to show you is how beautifully done or designed these outlets for the area. So you have the 12 louvers on the outside, and on the inside, this is where you actually adjust the wind flow. You use this little thing right here to adjust how much flow you want coming in to the passenger. And just as they had in the design brief for the original 1965 Mustang, this is in fact a 4-seater, and you do have some space in the back. You can't be too big of a human to fit back there, but it doesn't seem impossible to fit in the back seat of a 67 Fastback. And I also like these lights down here. They're just small details that just add to the timelessness of this design, both exterior and interior as well. And this whole dash here, this line, is very typical for Mustangs, and I think it's been with every single Mustang from the inception in 1965 to today's Mustang. If you've been in any Mustang, you will definitely recognize this design feature right here, where it dips down like this. This car is also equipped with brake discs all around, and if you don't know that and you need to know it, just look at your brake pedal and it will say disc brake right there. So there's no doubt, if you're ever wondering if you have disc brakes or not, just look at the brake pedal and it will tell you. And the front in here looks exactly like it did on my 2014 Mustang GT when I had that. These could be taken straight from this car and applied to the 2014 GT and it will look exactly the same. And of course you have that true muscle car V8 sound coming from the 67 Fastback here. This is what I love about older cars. It feels like, compared to modern cars, it feels like they have more of a soul, even when not just in the design language as we talked about before, but also in the way that the engine runs. There is a little bit of a variation in the idle, for example, the RPMs and so on, that kind of makes it feel like it's actually alive and has a will on its own. And when you sit inside of this and it's on idle like this, the whole car shakes and you can just feel what a special machine this is. So if you're interested in this car or in any of the other cars that we have here on the lot, make sure you go to Sienna Motors and check out their full inventory online by going to Sienna Motors or clicking the link down in the description.